All right, everyone, welcome to This Week in Tyranny. It's the show where you never run out of material. I'll never have to do a crazy thumbnail or clickbait because there's so much tyranny. I just keep turning topics down. There's so much to talk about, so much that we could talk about it. I swear it writes itself, right? So, anyway, I'm your host, Konrad Rogoz, as always. Today is Saturday, November 22nd, 2025. It's the same date as the Kennedy assassination, which is interesting because we're going to talk about false dualities and along the lines of false dualities. The Kennedy assassination was one of these first events that really got people to see that something was wrong. It was the thing that shook many people awake at the time. This is 1968, I believe, right? So this is a long time ago if you think about the conspiracy movement and all. And actually, it's the term where conspiracy theorist came from. These are the people that saw the official story and said, "There's no way that happened," and that was blatant. And but anyway, life goes on, right? 30 years passed, and we got September 11th. Then years pass again, and we have COVID-19, and here we are today on episode 155. So we're going to talk about small victories and should we celebrate them, and we talk about some things going our way, uh, and how it fits into the big picture and where we're going. So I'm going to touch on two things. First, I want to talk about this Operation Creep in Minnesota. This is the Bloomington, Minnesota police chief, Booker Hodges. Now, he announced on Tuesday that 16 men have been arrested as part of Operation Creep, where the men were allegedly trying to solicit a 17-year-old girl for sex. So, before I even play it, this is coming at the same time that you have revealing the Epstein files. The Epstein thing has become so convoluted, and we've gone all the way from Pizzagate, and that it was Hillary and Democrats who are trafficking children and they have them in the basement somewhere, and now Donald Trump is the president for a second time, and then the connections with Donald Trump and Epstein come out. And it's both political parties have kind of used the Epstein, the child sex abuse thing against their opponents. And then we've got more of these stories of police busting child molesters and pedophiles, and this is one of them. This is something that popped up in my feed, right? So this is how I found out about it. This is from this week. Let's listen to it because I got a lot to say.
So what I'm going to talk about today is starting on November 5th, us along with the BCA, Eden Prairie Police Department, Roseville Police Department, Airport Police Department, and Richfield Police Department conducted Operation Creep, which we were looking for individuals who were trying to purchase sex from a 17-year-old girl. We have the very best detectives here in the city of Bloomington, and I, for the life of me, don't understand why people want to come here and do this, or do it just period anyway, but especially coming here to the city of Bloomington. Everybody worked so hard in this operation, and we arrested 16 people. So I'm calling this Operation Creep because there's a I'm going to talk about is Emmanuel Lopez, 30 years old. The last shall be first. He was the last one we arrested, and he is from Bloomington. He wanted to have sex with a 17-year-old girl, and he kept talking with our decoy, and he persistently wanted to do this, so he was the last person we arrested when the operation was over. And since he lives in the orange jumpsuit district, he gets an orange jumpsuit. He should know better. You live here, man. Emmanuel, you live here, dude. You come in here to try to mess with a 17-year-old girl, so we locked him up. Next, Mr. Jacoby Timler. He shows up. He brings 4 grams of meth, and he works for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Maybe he'd go to work and figure out how to get that pollution out of his mind, come in here and try to mess with a 17-year-old girl. Next, we got...
So This guy, he's a funny guy. He's a likable guy. He'd be funny if he wasn't a cop. Because when you carry that badge, you carry the implication of a potential threat with you. Even if this guy's the most upstanding, best cop in the world, he still carries a gun in a holster, and I don't. He can decide to completely turn my day upside down if his judgment is, if he so chooses to, right? And I can't. He's legally protected in such a situation. If it would have gone bad and he would, get physical, shoot me, whatever, his actions are protected, mine are not. So that's the reason why you won't see me cracking jokes with a guy like that. I don't think it's funny. Not only do I not think that all this stuff with sex and children isn't funny, I don't find it funny when cops try to be funny. And it's nothing against him personally. Seriously, I would kind of lean towards liking this guy. But that's the thing. For me, there's no personal relationship with somebody who's licensed by the state to manage other people's lives and decide who's going to get taken off the streets. It can only be a purely professional, cordial relationship with me and cops. But that being said, setting something up here, I support taking people off the streets. We got to take these people off the streets. I don't want people to commit crimes and just get away with it. I've never advocated for people to just be able to commit crimes and get away with it. Now, people assume that being anti-police is the same thing as being anti-holding criminals accountable. And that's a completely false duality. That's the first of many false dualities I'm going to touch on. I'm fully in support of holding criminals accountable big time. This episode is going to touch a lot on false dualities and splits and divide and conquer. Being against the institution of police does not mean that I'm against the practice of policing. Policing people, which is holding criminals accountable. It doesn't mean that. It means what I have a problem with is, one, who gets to do it? Who gets to do the policing? Who's authorized to do it, and what and who gives them that authority is first. And two, which is really fundamental, is what is a crime in the first place? What constitutes a crime, and based on what law? So based on our law, 17 years old is illegal and right to have a consensual to have sex, right? It's not. I don't want to mince words here, right? I want to say things professionally, but at the same time, I don't. Like I'm just being straight up with you. We do it. This is the way we do it. 17 years old, no good. Soon as she turns 18, good to go. Right? That's the way the law treats it, because that's our law, and that's the law that we base our actions on. That no consideration of mental age, because such a thing, you can't read it, you can't test a mental age, or you could test it, but it's not so simple. Like maybe there are some people who are 22, but does that mean they can't be manipulated, they can't be taken advantage of? So it's a question that I'm going to leave hanging out there. What is a crime and based on what law? Because I'm going to come back to answer those questions at the end and bring it full circle. But anyway, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, is this it?
Some good ones for you today.
Are they breaking
I'm
up?
gonna butcher these names. I'm just.
Are they breaking up the pedophile rings with this? Is this what they're doing here? Did they infiltrate a child trafficking ring? No, they didn't. Did they go out into the community and stop crimes from happening? No, that's not what they did actually. They actually had to they had to do this thing. They had to have the girl there. I don't know if she was underage or if she was a different age, right? Pose as this 17-year-old girl, set up the meeting, and then these people, they were acting on the premise of meeting the 17-year-old girl who agreed to meet with them, right? Clearly, since they were arrested for that, as soon as before they met with her, of course, then that means that they clearly agreed. There was an agreement there, right? They agreed to a meeting with that decoy. And he said that they were trying to purchase sex. So it's not just they were friends and they were going to come hang out. It's like, no, I'm going to pay you. There's an acknowledgement of what's going to happen. There's going to be some kind of an exchange involved. That's why they brought drugs and money there. So let me be super clear, though, that that I'm not defending any of these people who did this. He shows up a lot of mugshots, a lot of names, and I don't trust any of these guys. I don't like any of these guys, so I'm not defending them. But I have a big problem with the police department painting this societal problem of child sex abuse in a certain way and then acting as if they're doing so much to stop it. Because I'm going to touch on that, the societal problem, because it's one of the most important things to me, is to stop the things that are being done to children. I say that all the time. But they're not the first police department to do this, right? This isn't the ultimate core of the problem. This is part of a growing trend with police and other state institutions acting like they're doing so much to stop the issue. Because the people have made it clear that this is an important issue for us. Since Pizzagate and all through, as we have gotten kind of, as things have changed with just men and woman dynamics and kind of LGBT and trans stuff becoming such a big topic, the issue of children and how children are affected, and then things coming out about the child, the pedophile rings, all the Balenciaga thing comes out, the Podesta artwork stuff came out, then Jeffrey Epstein, this whole thing comes out. So the government and politicians, they can't sweep this under the carpet because they realize that people care about this, so they're going to set themselves up as if they're trying to do something to stop it, and I contend that they are not. Okay? The face of child sex crime is not these faces that he's going to show. Rubina. This is not the face. That's not the face. This is not what that pedophilia issue looks like. This is the face of what it looks like, really. This is Michel Nehul, okay? This is a guy from Belgium that was sentenced to only 5 years in the Marc Dutroux case. The Marc Dutroux case is the Jeffrey Epstein case of Belgium. It was 1996, the arrest, and the trial itself was 2004. I don't think it actually in America became known until later, right? But this isn't a million years ago. This is recent. Now this Marc Dutroux case, I'm surprised this article is still out there. This is a 2002 article. If you go into this, which I'm not going to go into because it's going to completely derail the show, but Marc Dutroux, he himself wasn't a billionaire, but Michel Nehul right here, this is a rich businessman, and he was involved in this. Like, we're talking involved. Like, he was there, right? He was there, and he played a big role. And Dutroux himself had like 7 properties. He had like 7 houses, and he had all this help. This guy, goes without saying that he was rich and influential. He had a lot of connections, and if you go into this, it's just nuts. The Dutroux case is nuts. The prosecuting judge, he gets removed from the case after like busting the whole thing open because he attended like a memorial for the victims, and because they gave him a plate of spaghetti and a pen, it was said that he has a conflict of interest for accepting gifts, and then it dragged on and on and on, and Marc Dutroux, I believe he died recently, but this guy I'm pretty sure is free. That guy definitely went free. And then Dutroux's wife, who was at the home where 2 girls starved to death in the basement, she ended up being released a few years ago, actually. So it gets so crazy. And what I really need to do is play Regina Lauf's testimony, who was one of these girls. Insane. So the real faces of the pedophile rings are more like that. It's not just this. Don't get it confused. I mean, guys like this, the drug addicts, crazy people, they still do terrible things. A lot of people do terrible things to each other, but this is not it. This is it, and this is what people don't talk about. Okay, people talk about Epstein now. That's the whole big thing. Here, we have hardcore evidence connections, and they actually in Belgium was a protest when that judge got removed. Like over 300,000 people went out into the streets. It was insane, and chances are you didn't hear about this, and I think there's a reason for that. Everything distracts from the true nature of the whole thing with children, and it's a little bit even difficult to talk about because of how much is out there. The Boy Scout leaders, the church leaders, state institutions, the foster care system, people who work in schools, this whole school system, high level administrators of like small private communities. There are all these private little secluded communities, and in a smaller community like that, you get somebody who's powerful. They have access to the whole community, you know. And then also there's official Satanism, like the Satanic Temple is said to have 700,000 members. The Church of Satan doesn't have a record out there of how many, but definitely a few thousand. There's got to be. And I'm not saying that being a Satanist means that you're a pedophile or even that you're a criminal at all. But when the entire idea of your religion is based on an inversion of traditional morals and societal norms, there's definitely an environment there that would harbor pedophiles. And our whistleblowers who have come out, who have grown up in satanic families, who talk about this, right? And within the Mormon religion, like when I say church leaders, I'm not just talking about the Catholic Church. Everybody knows about the Catholic Church. Nobody talks about the rabbis, the problem with rape in general in India, because people talk about the Muslim countries and the way kind of women are viewed in Islam. No, but in India they have a lot of Buddhism or Hinduism, not Buddhism, and yet it happens there. In the Jewish faith, I shouldn't say the Jewish faith, the Jewish traditions and religion, and then in the Mormon religion. It would be something like within the religious communities, every, like the after school programs, the schools themselves, even the bank is Mormon. In the Mormon community, even the bank is religious. Like there's separation of church and state, but the society is the church. Life is the church. So if you're living in an area like that, in the Mormon area, and you've got somebody who's a respected figure in the community, a big player in the church hierarchy, then they're going to be allowed to abuse kids because of their position of power and influence. With someone in the satanic religion, it would be the opposite. It would be somebody who's like a corporate executive or professor who obviously doesn't admit to being Satanist. They're just living amongst the rest of society. But at the satanic meetings, all religions meet with each other and commune. The Satanists just the same. They would network. And they would meet, say, a doctor or an administrator who may have access to children. And that's how that kind of stuff goes on. And these people have implied vows with each other, vows of secrecy. And you got guys like this, like Brad Stoll in the Mormon religion, and so this guy's not a priest, right? This guy's not a priest, but he's in the Mormon church, and he was a scout leader. So this is the Boy Scouts in Idaho. He confessed to sexually abusing 24 boys. That's how much he confessed to, like under oath, confessed to. Pleaded guilty to molesting 2 boys, sentenced in 1997 to 150 days in prison and 15 years of probation. So a couple months. One of Stoll's victims, Adam Steed, came forward, and he had the whole lawsuit against the Mormon Church, and he broke this not only on the Mormon Stories podcast, but that's when I found out about him. And big shout out and much love to Adam Paul Steed and everything he's done. Hope he's well. I'm sure he is with his beautiful family out there. He's awesome. So. And this is from a website called floodlit.org, and they focus on apparently the abuse in the Mormon church. And there's no shortage here. They got reports, they got a lot of information, they got links, they got names. They got court files, you know. They even got the last, they got social security number issued in Idaho. So this is extensive. That happens all the time. And it's the same pattern as Detroit with this guy. He was convicted. It was known that he was doing this stuff. He was convicted. He was released, and he was allowed to continue. Okay? Until the noise got to be overwhelming. I actually don't know what he's doing at this point. He may be living. He may be free. I honestly don't know. So now back to the cops who busted these guys. A police officer could catch one of these guys, and often they do. They catch these actual. They caught Detroit, right? Eventually, these guys get caught. But as soon as their job is done, that police officer, their job is done, they go home. The system takes over. They take jurisdiction of that person, and the system does what the system does. The fall guy goes down. Epstein's get thrown under the bus. Someone says, hey, look over there, look what they're doing over there. And then this extensive and massive network of child abuse, both organized network and then the disorganized stuff, people who are just out there on the street, that happens every day in every neighborhood. It goes down. That system never really gets threatened just because one guy goes away. When people in uniforms touch on the real extent and nature of it, or they pull on a string that's for real, that's when they go off the rails, or they themselves are found dead. And it is said in this article, in the Detroit case, that 20 potential witnesses connected with the case have died in mysterious circumstances. One of them was, I think, the lead cop on the case. One of them was a prosecutor. So it's absolutely insane how obvious it is that the system protects pedophiles. I mean, it just does, right? So people have no idea how much there really is out there, so I don't really celebrate these arrests, right? So there's that. Another phenomenon that one does feel like celebrating is the opposition that we've seen to digital ID. Digital ID has been one of the big stories this week, so I'm going to switch over to that. We'll come back to the police and kind of the idea of law and rights and first principles there. But this is going to be a report that I'll play from Fox News that deals with the digital ID thing that happened this week, which is what? Apple launched its digital ID feature, allowing US users to store their passport information inside of the Apple Wallet app. So they could use it at the TSA, at the airport, and they could use it for other identity verification scenarios like all the time. The other day, I had to verify my identity to take an Uber. I didn't know. I was getting my tires changed, and all of a sudden, it's freezing out there. I'm walking down the street, and I got to try to pull out my ID so I can get a ride. Yeah, that's reality. I don't know if that's Uber does that where you live, but I'm from Chicago. You use Uber sometimes. So the rollout of this digital ID thing with Apple began on November 12th. Today is the 22nd. It came out 3 days ago that Illinois is part of it now. Illinois is one of 12 states now. In the UK, it's going to become mandatory. And I'll let Laura Ingraham, whatever her name is, tell you about it. Okay, all due respect. All right, let's listen to what she has to say. Now, always interesting to hear from Fox News because remember, this is a conservative, mainstream news outlet. But they're talking about something that's very, I would say, not mainstream. I wouldn't expect it to be on the news, somebody being against digital ID.
Do you see any of the little alerts about the new iPhone update? Guess what? It's going to let you add your passport to your Apple Wallet. It creates something called a digital ID that you can use whenever you need to show ID, including at the airport, to get on domestic flights, for a lot of things. And it sounds super nifty and so convenient. Everything in one place. Well, if you think that, you must have more trust in big tech safeguarding your privacy than I do.
let me say this. It's a very similar thing to the Minnesota cops when they busted these creeps. I'm looking right now at a professional that works for the government. With cops, it's directly. With mass media, if you're on a main media channel and you're an anchor, you have a show, it's indirectly, but you're controlled. You work for the government, okay? I'm not saying you're their dog or their errand boy, but the institution that you work for, you're playing a certain role in shaping the thought and behavior in society. That's what the media is for. And although not every move of theirs is controlled, right? The broad and long-term goals of that police badge and that Fox News logo over there, it's to shape society according to the wishes of their bosses and owners. See, the influencers that influence their editors, their producers, their police chiefs. Yeah, but that being said, I'm playing this because this is a really good report. It's not a good report, it's a great report on digital ID. And I want to talk about this. So, respect where respect is due. Seriously.
At least here in the United States, this idea of a digital ID is optional, at least for now. But in the UK, it looks like the digital ID will soon be mandatory, at least if you want to work.
This government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Well, it's not simple. And you notice it's at the Global Progress meeting. Well, it's not simple, and it's being pushed by people in high places and with big tech connections, like former PM Tony Blair. And the digital ID debate has caused an uproar among the Brits, concerns about privacy, civil liberties, perhaps geofencing, tracking, social credit systems, well, a lot of nefarious motives. But tech billionaires Bill Gates and Larry Ellison, they're totally on board.
The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented.
Look at this.
It's not easily...
Are you kidding me? Look at this. This is the World Government Summit. February 12th, I'm assuming this year. And look at the way it looks. I mean, you'd think this was out of the Matrix movie. You'd think this was sci-fi, the way it's set up. No, this is really the World Government Summit. And if you look at this, if you look them up, it began in 2013 and it's in Abu Dhabi. They have it in, or it's the United Arab Emirates. So it's over there in Saudi Arabia. And originally it was called the World Government Summit. But I see that they added the S because World Government Summit sounds way too blatantly dystopian. At least it sounds more innocent when you say it's World Governments Summit. It's just a summit of the governments of the world. But World Government Summit is what they're doing. And that's literally what it is. And you've got Larry Ellison talking about the future and how they see the whole world being governed. Crazy. I didn't know this.
Accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform.
A unified data platform. Well, what could possibly go wrong with that? Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger has been digging into the digital ID issue. He just released a...
Okay, so when I first heard about what Apple did with putting the picture of your license going into the app, my first thought was this: honestly, that's not digital ID. It's the first thing I thought. I'm like, well, that's not digital ID. Or in other words, it is. Literally, it's literally a digital ID. But that's not the issue with biometric surveillance that people have always warned about. You know, the same people who always warned about world government, and world government is to this day known as a conspiracy theory. But yet you have a World Government Summit where all the CEOs and they go to talk with the fucking princes of Saudi Arabia about what's going to happen in the future, you know. So anyway, people have always warned against the digital ID, but this thing that Apple did, that's not digital ID. It's literally digital ID, like a picture of your license or passport. And that's not the issue. That's never been the issue. Your license already has a code that they could scan. The only difference is now you've got a picture on a screen as opposed to a physical document on a piece of plastic. So my immediate reaction to the digital ID news was, they're doing a slow, soft reveal of it, right? First through Apple and Google, so then people get used to it and associate it with something that's not really a new drastic invasion of privacy. The digital ID that has always been the thing that we're warning against is a new invasion of privacy. And then people would say, oh, this is the mark of the beast that you were warning about. This is what the big bad scary thing was supposed to be. You people were so worried about this. This is just a picture of your license, right? It's just like credit cards are already controlling all transactions, but it's not really all of them. It's not to that degree. It's not quite the dystopian world government digital currency that people are warning against. Okay, so that's where I was coming from when I first heard this. But you see, Laura here, she correctly makes the link to what the real issue is. The unified data platform, which would be a whole new level. It would be infinitely more data, more information, not just my name, my physical address, my physical features. They already have that. They've always had that. It's the tracking system. And it's the ability to track all of the information about you, everything that you do. Not just professional, not just like on a government level, but your buying choices, your preferences, your health data, your emotional data, your relationships, your location all around the clock. So all avenues of life, 360 degrees. Unified data platform. That's exactly the issue. And she even put Larry Ellison here as the poster boy for this dystopian bullshit. And I think that's a great choice. That's a great editorial choice on her part. So I listened to this report, and how could I not celebrate that millions of Americans get to see this on TVs, on their TVs, and they might fucking learn something. I have to give credit and appreciation to all the people out here that do this work. Not just somebody that gets to say it on Fox News. Everybody who's got their own channels and doing it in their own way. Seriously. Even though I may not like these people a lot of the time, sometimes I may disagree with them, but it's really a lot of credit and appreciation from me. But now let's get into this. Why you shouldn't be fooled into thinking that anyone on TV is actually helping. I'm talking actually helping, actually heading long-term in the right direction. And I include in that Tucker Carlson, I include Candace Owens, I include Nick Fuentes. So it's not just the traditional news channels that I'm talking about, but the popular alternative channels too on YouTube. Like, it's a very broad sense that I'm saying on TV. Don't trust the people on TV. That includes these podcasters. The reason you shouldn't be fooled is it's a tried and tested strategy to make the truth partisan. To say the truth, part of the truth, maybe even a lot of the truth. But to have it coming from a person that is associated with a certain political party, with a certain ideology, with a certain style. So the left and the right wing, they play hot potato with issues over the years. They just pass them over. And they're issues that if people held on to it, and if people really agreed on the right things, that would actually change society. They would actually do something to shake up the hierarchy, to be a threat to the status quo. But what always ends up happening is the essence of action and righteousness on a particular issue, it's pounced on by the politicians, by some kind of political party, by some kind of a political movement. And they start echoing that kind of message of action and truth and change, right? They jump onto it. And so that message becomes linked to a certain messenger. Whether it's Mamdani or it's Trump, somebody takes it over. And then everybody starts to kind of look the same. They become part of a crew. It's like a movement that has qualities. It has a certain essence to it. It just does. So you start to get that alignment then across different issues, right? Because these people who believe in this one thing, they believe that they lean one way on abortion, on drugs, on the border crisis, on gay marriage, right? So you start to get kind of an ideology when it's polarizing, especially, and of course it is polarizing. People start talking about the messenger and not the message. So then on a wider societal scale, you get this inertia because they are polarized. And how can a person come together and agree with somebody, with a camp of people who just said something totally inhumane about another topic, right? Who support that messenger, that one guy, and his stance on these other 15 issues, you totally disagree with, fully disagree with. So how can you really agree on something and put all of that emotional baggage aside and just agree on a particular issue? You wouldn't agree with them because you think they're downright nuts. You've seen them be wrong about A, B, C, and D. Because when it's a certain messenger, it's a certain political party, it comes with a certain worldview and it comes with a personality type. And that ensures that nothing ever changes. They just hit the ball back and forth. It's a false duality. It's like a tennis game. And they just hit the ball back and forth. What can the player do other than hit the ball back as hard as they can? They have to hit it as hard as they can just to avoid from losing, from getting the ball hit at them. It's interesting, the game of tennis is, even visually, it represents the scales of justice. You get the two tennis players and they're fighting so hard, and then you have the umpire sitting in their little tower and he's even on the net and he's just watching them play, and he makes the judgments of if the ball went in or out. And you see that tennis is it's called an elitist sport, but it's a sport where you don't really shit talk your opponent too much, right? If you act too if you get out of line, you're gonna get like a warning for all these different things. And but they also get a bit of tennis players can be divas a little bit. I have to give a random shout out to John McEnroe because that's my favorite tennis player, and he did shit talk sometimes, and I like him, man. So, and they tried to cancel him one time for saying that Serena Williams would be ranked 400, but that's a story for another day. It represents the scale of justice, that game, but real justice is about seeing both sides and seeing it correctly, seeing through it, seeing both sides, right? Not being imbalanced. But that's not what you get in, of course, the two-party divide. But this is all why you do hear some anti-establishment material on Fox News, like you see here. It's taken into account that ideas can't truly be suppressed. The government knows, every tyrant knows, you can't really oppress ideas. You can't really hold the people down. It's going to come out sooner or later. Now you could still do that censorship style in some areas. It is done. Like if I say certain things, I'm going to get my video taken off YouTube. There are YouTube guidelines and copyright strikes, and there's hardcore censorship on some things. But really, it's obsolete. That's not the censorship style. The true censorship style has always been, let the rebellious idea be spoken, but infiltrate it, twist it, bring in someone to taint it, bring in someone to say it, to echo it, and to paint it in a certain way. It's nothing against Laura here or any of these conservative anchors, because I'm not, and you'll see, I'm not really blaming them. But I do want to see the whole court and show it to you. As a strategy, you don't put the truth down, push it down until it explodes. That would be a bad, that's the worst thing you can do. It's the only thing, it's really the only way that people would win, because really the people have everything going against us when it comes to coming together as a large group and and taking action against the status quo. I mean, it's really difficult to get organized that way, because when people get together in large groups, and it's necessary for people to get together, because of how physically and resource-wise how powerful the system of control is. It's important for a large group of people to come together, but when large groups of people come together, there tends to be a lack of discernment. Your power in numbers comes with a decrease of intelligence, nuance, and discernment, which you need the discernment and the nuance to do the right thing. It's just the way society is. Anyway, the way to censor the truth is to give it an outlet valve, to settle down the voices of rebellion, just to keep them going. Just keep them going. Time is their enemy, right? Time is your friend if you're in the status quo. The longer life goes on as it is, the weaker the people get. The more their money is worth less, right? There's more time for them to have divisions and personal problems in their family, things that are going to hold them down, injuries, illnesses, right? Time is your friend if you're trying to control people. So you're just going to give them something to invest in. Give them somebody who's talking a little bit of the truth, and just keep them there. At least you control that investment of energy. If you think about being a tyrant, as long as you're writing the check, you're fine with some opposition. This is what controlled opposition is. At least you're writing the check of your opposition's ideological leaders, which means you've got them in a much safer spot than otherwise. That's the definition of controlled opposition. And this brings me to the idea of tanking. I wonder all the time about how to explain to people the nature of the world, and why do people not get it. So I'm going to make another sports comparison. The reason that our world government warnings are pedophile network warnings and our digital ID warnings, why these warnings are never listened to, why people don't really listen to us, it's because that there's an emotional implication that comes with accepting that rational knowledge. All that we talk about is reasonable, rational knowledge. But you see, people don't really treat us in a very reasonable and rational way, because there's an emotional damage that comes with seeing the world as it is. And the implication is that people at the top, at all various sectors of society, they're all tanking, which means they're trying to bring down their own team. They're shooting into their own goal. That's essentially what has to be true if you're going to look at this world government plan seriously. You're going to see that the only way it makes sense is if some people are tanking and they are totally fine with bringing society down. This is the motive that people do not get. People don't get it because we rationally do not accept self-sabotage as a way of life. Which is interesting, because in many ways, for a lot of us, self-sabotage is our way of life. Self-sabotage it might as well be the defining quality of human beings. Self-sabotage, doing the things that are against what is actually optimal for us. That's human beings, man. That kind of internal split, and me included. Admittedly, I've self-sabotaged all through my life in all different ways, right? So I'm not lecturing at you guys from my umpire chair, my high chair, but that's the way it is. But when we look at authority, management, leadership, we never think that they would tank. So even if we would do something like that, we'd never think that the guys who are running the world, society, we don't think that they would tank, that they would do something like that. It's a weird, can you even call it projection? I don't know. But in sports, what tanking is losing on purpose in order to have success in the future. So you're going to lose now on purpose so that in the future you're going to have a better chance. Usually it's in order to get a worse record, worse mathematical record, so that you can get a better draft pick and you can get one of these star players in the future. And they're going to save your franchise. And it works in the way that the system is set up. The kind of first shall be last system, which is, whoever has the worst record is going to draft first. It's reverse order, right? So it's the ultimate Robin Hood thing, right? When you win the championship, you win the championship, but you're also going to pick last out of all the teams to choose the next player who's declaring for the draft from college. So it's interesting. Now, it's funny because sports fans have become so cynical that they downright believe in tanking. Like, it's not even weird to hear, oh yeah, I'm rooting for them to lose. A lot of Bears fans here in Chicago, they were all for tanking a few years ago, and I don't even know if I could blame them. Because when you see somebody stuck in kind of a purgatory mediocrity for the longest, you almost would wish things would get worse so that they can get better. But that's not really what the top levels of society are doing. Still, I want to talk about this tanking idea because the fans who are like the bottom of the team, right? They don't actually have anything to do with the team's success. They believe in tanking. The people who actually play, the coaches, these people who have to kind of answer for the team and go to battle for the team, none of them would tank. No player or coach has ever supported tanking. Nobody's ever admitted to tanking. They actually play the game, so they're never gonna lose. They're never gonna lose on purpose. That doesn't happen. When you go into the people above them, the owners, they won't admit it, but they do practice it. And there have been plenty of examples of straight up tanking. And it works the way the system's set up. Look at Connor Bedard now in Chicago. He's in the Chicago Blackhawks. He's the leading scorer in hockey. The Blackhawks were so bad for so long, and there's this all-star generational player that's going to maybe become the greatest hockey player in the world. And Chicago's looking pretty good now. I'm gonna go to a Blackhawks game in January. Of course, I'm a Florida Panthers guy, but that's a story for another day. I really need to start my sports channel because maybe there's something there. If it's not music, it's sports. So maybe people will understand it this way, right? It's not the players who tank. I'm not saying the players are tanking. I'm not saying that police chief or Laura over here is in on the lies, on the propaganda. They're playing for their contract, the players. Why should the players on a football team care about the future of a team that might trade them? They're just doing their thing, right? The coach doesn't tank either. The coach is going to get fired after a bad season of tanking, and their future job in another team is going to depend on how they did at this job, so they're not going to tank. It's the management that tanks, and the way that tanking happens is by controlling who is put out there. You know who's going to go out there. Whoever you're going to put out there is going to try as hard as they possibly could. But if they just don't have the firepower, if they don't have the right pieces, they're going to lose. And you can tell who's going to lose based on what is their skill set, what are their resources. So when you put people out into the field who are not equipped to win, they're not even given the resources or opportunities to get results, that's when you get tanking. And the owners have done this. People have done this. That's what happens in society. It's not the police chief, it's not Laura Ingraham who is running the propaganda on you. They may actually be trying their best. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she just quit. She just resigned from legislature because she's she did the best thing, the truly righteous thing to do if you work for government. She said no to the whole thing, to the whole divide, and quit. She let him have it. Whatever her motive is, I don't really know her. All I know is that she's done all of these partisan stunts. She's been very involved in as being like a staunch Donald Trump supporter, but all I can say is that today I listened to her say that there is no plan to save the world. There is no 4D chess going on. She really said the truth, and as of today, she's doing the right thing. She's doing the righteous thing. So it's not for me to get into somebody's heart and mind and tell you what they're thinking. When you realize that it's the management that is, regardless of what these people do out on the field, the outcome is already predetermined, not in the way that it's already done, not in the way that it's predetermined like fate, but the law of probability is going to be accurate if you have a large enough sample size. And like I said, time is their friend. Time is not our friend. So we know that at the end of the day, Marjorie Taylor Greene's not going to do nothing. Laura Ingraham's not going to do nothing, and neither is that police chief. As long as people aren't looking at the whole thing and really able to see the whole court, instead of just hitting the ball back and forth. But that duality, it makes you think differently about duality, this team versus that team, when you realize that one of them is tanking. You don't get behind the team that's tanking it, and even the team that's going against it. See, for any of you sports fans, you know that you don't watch a football game the same way when you're going against a team that's 2-14 going into their last game. It's just not the same. You know that it's not all the way there. And tanking does not mean that you're giving up every play. It doesn't mean you're throwing the game. You just have to watch the whole game to see the key moments. And you only need a few key moments to decide the outcome of a game. So let's do that anyway. Let's do that. Let's listen to the end of this report and see if I can find something, because, of course,
on this on his Substack called Public. He joins us now with his thoughts. Michael, look, the argument is it's like it'll help thwart illegal immigration, ID fraud, streamline healthcare services. Sounds fantastic. What the heck's the problem?
Right. Hey, great to be with you, Laura. Yeah, I mean, another conspiracy theory that has started coming true. I mean, we saw this announcement in September. It took everybody by surprise. The World Economic Forum had been pushing digital IDs, the United Nations, the European Union, Britain. Of course, the really terrifying example is China, which uses digital IDs and a social credit score to control speech and to control what people think and say online. I mean, it could come in a lot of different ways. They'll start voluntary, then they'll make it mandatory. They'll have rewards, and then they'll have punishments. It's quite terrifying. And when you just listen to what the advocates for digital IDs say, it's terrifying. And, you know, Laura, one thing I learned from this last round of investigations is that this is a huge cybersecurity threat. The idea that, I mean, imagine if you get hacked in one of the many websites that you log into. Imagine everything suddenly being hacked because it's all centralized in a single place. That cybersecurity threat alone ought to be enough to kill the digital ID. But again, this is potentially digital totalitarianism.
Well, remember China hacked into, I think it was Office of Personnel Management, and got, you know, untold numbers of government workers' records, their home addresses, phone numbers, Social Security. I mean, that's the U.S. government. Like, we're supposed to be the most secure system around. So that.
Sorry, muted. I do it at least once. Cybersecurity in China, that's a big time straw man. This is the tanking moment where you see it in the game. It's like, oh, why did they do that? So I know it's a data security risk. It's obviously a data security risk because all this information that is being stored somewhere, it's being stored somewhere in the servers, and it happens again and again and again. That big tech ends up selling your data or it disappears. Obviously, it's a cybersecurity risk. But why argue it? When Apple and Google and Larry Ellison, they can make things more or less secure. That's within their power. And these Chinese hackers, so-called, they're just like the Islamic terrorists. They answer to their superiors as well. They can be used. They're like a tool. So these hackers, whether they're Chinese or Russian, they're Chinese now, right? Because that's the big enemy. The hackers can be dispatched to hack digital ID infrastructure, sure. Or they could hack the bank and email accounts of those that don't have digital ID. And then they'll say that you should get digital ID, and then you will be protected from this cybersecurity risks. And then what do you say? If that was your argument, the other team's going to have the ball then and they're going to say, look, we have the cybersecurity thing on our side. So the false duality, the controlled opposition, the tanking, all this stuff, it works by taking the center of conversation away from what matters. The cybersecurity thing is a side point. It's not the point. The point is the principle. First principles with digital ID, because the true issue is not digital ID. The real issue with it is the ID part in the first place, digital or not. It's the ID itself that is the issue. Not that information about you should be secret, right? That's not what I'm saying. But the fact that somebody else gets to decide whether you can own property, like a car, right? Whether you can go to another country or not, that's a passport. Whether or not action can be taken against you to lock you up, right? Your license and registration, what they ask you for before they arrest you. So that's the real issue. And this goes back to the beginning of this episode as well. The two problems that I have with policing. One was who gets to do it, who's authorized to do policing, and what gives them that authority. And then two, what is a crime, what constitutes a crime, and based on what law are we talking about? Who gets to be the police in our society is all wrong. There's never going to be justice if it's a single profession that runs policing. Every person has to have the ability to police every other person. It has to be lateral enforcement. That doesn't mean everybody's snitching on everybody, but you have to have the authority to act like that in a given situation. And everybody is just as qualified as anybody else to do that. People really need to leave each other the fuck alone, is the point. But also, everybody with that right to leave each other alone, when somebody is not leaving someone else alone, everybody has the right to step in. You don't have to call a specific guy. You don't fucking have to call Walker, Texas Ranger, or Chuck Norris to come handle it for you. What gives them that authority? What gives me the authority, or anybody else the authority, as I'm saying, everyone should have the ability to be a policeman, so to speak. Well, what gives you that authority is the inherent principles of ownership in the universe. Just being alive, being an individual in the universe living, you know ownership. You own yourself. You are alive. You are here. You exist. You cannot be stepped on. You cannot be walked all over. And you cannot be boxed in. You don't have to live a certain way. We have all of this choice and voluntary interaction. If I wrong no other person or what is theirs, then they cannot wrong me or what is mine. That's very basic. I know that reality is not a utopia. I know that everybody agrees with the golden rule in general. So this will be tested in real life, and I get it, and I still hold to that. I still hold that this works in reality, and you can still have your cops and judges. You could still do that. But in principle, the authority is distributed. The authority to have use of force and to make a judgment like that, it has to be distributed throughout, given to everyone, not just qualified like a specially government trained force like the police or a judge, right? Or some kind of a priest class. So each individual contains the authority to be a cop and a judge in a given situation. And when they are wronged, you have the right of self-defense. Not like we have now. People say you have self-defense now. Even in America, you don't. We don't have self-defense. We've never had self-defense. maybe in the Wild West. Like, I'm talking about not like we have now, where if you pay the right fees and you fill out the right forms, then you can get licensed to buy a gun. And then if you shoot someone who robs you, then you will pay tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars in court for months, and it'll drag on for years and destroy your life. It'll change your life just to defend yourself in order to not go to jail and be prosecuted by the state. That's what we have now. We don't have anything approaching self-defense now. And in going into this, I've already sort of covered point number 2, like what constitutes a crime and based on what law. And that I won't go into in depth here. It should really be a separate piece. But what definitely is a crime is to prevent people from owning property, like a car, which we already do with the ID. Now, of course, they have plans to control this in a very more extensive and deep way. So they're doing the digital ID thing, which is heading towards AI governments and a unified data platform. And that's right. But we're not arguing this at the first principles level, and that's why we're not making any progress, because the ID is already an issue. So I think we're suffering from a lack of worldview conviction, a lack of long-term understanding to be able to explain to people that the whole government thing does not work. There's principles of governance that works, but they have to be correct in first principles. Like an actual, reasonable, objective law that is inherent in life, not according to Judeo-Christian principles, not according to any kind of specific culture. It has to be universal across everyone who is a human being, and I would argue that it extends outside of even the human kingdom, right? So there's where the discussion should be, definitely more than something that is so rudimentary and basic. That is that everybody should be able to drive a damn car if they can find one. The way we do with driver's licenses today, people already drive without a license. They already get drunk and crash into people all the time. We kill each other on the road every day. We have road rage every day. All these people have licenses. The ID isn't stopping it. Do IDs and license plate, do they help catch bad guys out there? You bet. Oh, you bet they do. A lot of bad people have gone down because of that, and without that, then they would be free, which is unacceptable. Sure. But again, go back to why. This is because the people don't get to do any policing in their community in the first place. It's because the people don't do any policing that the crime happens in the first place in our communities. How many videos have you seen, that I've seen, all different parts of the world, all four corners of the world, where you see a brutal murder in public? You see somebody absolutely brutalized, horrific, blood spilling all over the street, and people just stand there, do nothing. They walk right past them. Like whatever the fuck they're doing that day was so important that they walked past someone who's dying, and just nothing, no reaction, no emotion, nothing. That's the policing system that we are sold. No self-defense. No self-defense. It's set up to fail. A system like that is set up to fail. This is why we're always going to have violence. This is why we're never going to take down the global pedophile network, because the people are not empowered to do it. So, in principle, what's wrong with the digital ID in principle? Nothing. Nothing more than what was already wrong with the driver's license. What's actually wrong with all this, what the actual crime is, someone having the ability to deny us the freedom to live. And they can base it on whatever reason they want in the future. They're denying us the freedom to live. See, what they're doing with this digital ID stuff, it's just like soundproofing your basement. Say you got a basement and you're soundproofing it. You're putting all of this triple, quadruple layered insulation. You're putting all these pads in your basement. You're building a hidden entrance to your basement. You know, you're really finishing it up and making it nice and hidden. And you're installing chains. You're going to bolt the chains down to the ground. You're just doing a project and building this soundproof basement with a hidden entrance that nobody can get in or out. And there are these chains and that can change something up. Is there a crime in building that? Is there anything wrong with building that? So that in itself is not a crime. It's just building something, right? But knowing what it's for, knowing that guys like Mark Dutroux, and they're gonna hold girls in that basement and control from the day that they chained them up, they're gonna control the rest of their lives and they're gonna die there. Knowing that that's what it's for, there's a big crime there, and there's every right to stop that from happening. Digital ID is about the infrastructure being built when we know by who and what for. Knowing who is doing this and what they're doing it for, what their intentions are. I don't believe in punishing people for intentions, but when you know what they're going to do, they've said they're going to do it, that's actionable. And anyway, whether it's right or wrong, I would do it. I would do it for the children, for what's right. I mean, when you know what's going to happen, I mean, even if I got to spend my life in jail, and I would do it. So don't forget that. This is my big conclusion to this episode, and this is why ultimately I do not celebrate the small victories. I don't give a shit about these small victories. Because society not only does not see that the owners and managers of society are tanking, they don't see the nature of the decision makers. They don't get that it's the Mark Dutroux mentality and behavior that's behind the corridors of power. It's guys like that continue to get away with what they're doing. And my words fall on deaf ears every week, because neither I nor my small audience is able to convey to others that the nature of the dynamic between a population and that population's decision makers, that dynamic is an adversarial one, and it's a parasitic one. One is feeding off of the other. They don't think like you. They don't play to win like you. They're not on the field with you. Their victory is not on the field. They don't care what the score is on the scoreboard. That's for you. You can have the scoreboard. Their victory is in rooms that you've never been in. And some of us get this. Some of us get the nature of these people. Some more than others. Our families definitely don't get it. And when we all see our families on Thanksgiving this Thursday, if you're in America, we're going to get another opportunity to talk about society with our family, with our friends. And surely those people that are telling us, our family members, they're going to have an air of confidence about it, an air of knowing, as they always do. They always think they know so much. We always end up looking like the weird ones, just like all the fans, they know, right? All the fans, they think they know their team. They think they know what the issues are. They all think that if they got the head coaching job, they would know how to fix their team. When they haven't been to the practices, they don't know the staff. They don't know the staff's hiring practices. They don't know their values at all. And at this Thanksgiving dinner, we will, without a doubt, are going to eat some dead animals, some turkeys and things like that. And when you think about the nature, say now our relationship, human beings, us, the population, think about our relationship with the animal kingdom. Is that an adversarial one? Is it a parasitic one? So think about the decision makers at the dinner table, at their dinner, what they talk about at their dinner table, right? You think about the decision makers, these people that own the media, they own the police chiefs. They're eating us on the dinner table, right? We're that turkey. So think about it and ask yourself, can you really blame them? And who should we blame? So that's my answer to celebrating small victories. It's kind of a negative takeaway. It's kind of a dark conclusion, dare I say. But I'm actually feeling great. I'm in a good mood. I'm going to keep it up. I'm excited to share a lot of things with you, but kind of taking it day at a time. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.